Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and as the first stage of building my rail bridges, I'm going to build some cliffs underneath this base plate. So there's a number of things that I'm trying to achieve today. First of all, linking the water from the harbour area to the entrance of Brick Bay in this table that's underneath the railway lines. Also to take out these temporary supports and put in permanent cliffs to support the headland and the end of what will be both of the rail bridges. And then I need to add another 16 by 32 base plate next to this green one, kind of underneath the tram station, and then ultimately link up the cliffs, which will finish about here, just round this corner where this new base plate will be, and then have a very sort of straight line linking very tidily right up to the edge of the marina. So basically the vertical side from here all the way to here. And then lastly, I can fill in the ballast right up to the cliff edge here and here in the railway line, which means we can go straight on to building the bridges in our next video. Fantastic. So unfortunately, we're going to have to step backwards to go forwards. The first thing I'm going to have to do is take out all these supports, all the railway lines, the supporting pillars and so on, so we've got space to work. I'm also going to take off temporarily this green base plate because it's not brilliantly supported at the moment. Half of it's hanging off a table and the other half will need firm bricks. Then we can start at this corner building our cliff, which won't be in green or brown, it'll be in grey. And for that I've got my sort of tray of bits to use, which got all sort of slopes and bricks in dark bluish grey and some accent bricks in sand green, for instance, and accent plates and things like that. We've also got lots of different burp pieces, big ones, little ones, and even some of these ones in green that I'm thinking will be good to use here because they're sort of reflecting sort of seaweed or something like that. And the thing is as well with these burps, you can even use them back to front to sort of represent small caves, both the big ones and the small ones. So I'm going to try and make it very sort of in and out and very natural looking. Then add to that I've got a small bag of seaweed pieces, lots of little cheese wedge slopes in different sort of natural colours, and even some medium blue studs just for adding sort of splashes around the rocks. So I'm going to get stripping all of this off and then we can start right here. So I've started right up against the back of the warehouse and even put in a very sort of thin, tall 1x1 brick just to fill in the very slim gap between the two so it's seamless. And you can see I've started to use seaweed pieces, all different types of inverted slope and plate, and cheese wedge piece and sand green and light grey as well. So it's very varied. Also, this is one of the bigger burp pieces in the sort of mottled green and grey. And then the next section, which I've already done, is actually in old grey. So there's another sort of variation. So you can see it's a slightly muddier colour than the dark bluish grey and miles off the light bluish grey. So I'm going to put that there. So we've got some dark seaweed as well as the light, and some more of this sand green and even dark green coming through. Now I'm pretty much turning the corner and I'm going to be going straight along here. As you can see, I've continued it on. I've used a burp piece backwards there to create a little sort of cave inlet there and here. This one's using one of the green smaller burps, and this is one of the bigger green burps right on the end, and an old dark grey burp in the middle there. So there's loads of variation across. Again, we're going light seaweed, dark seaweed, light seaweed, dark seaweed. So we've got lots of that. Lots of sand green in there to show some sort of moss or seaweed sort of life. And I thought in one of the caves could even have a crab underneath one of the bridges. Now I've also designed this so when we put in the base plate back, it's now supported along this lip as well. So you can see it's just firmly supported here, here, here and here by the back of the butt pieces. I'm still going to need a bit more support that you won't see underneath this bit that you can see still moves. So I'll add a bit more support there, and then I guess we'll continue round the corner. I'm also going to tie the two together further by adding pieces such as this, which will hold the base plate from the top, because obviously it hasn't got any anti-studs on the other side, so it's technically a little mobile. But if I add something that's a bit deeper, so you can see this is a 2 deep piece, then it will hold on to the cliff edge, the front, and the base plate with the back, and therefore really hold this in place. So I'm going to continue with the supports and adding a few more of these pieces so it's all clamped in place. Right, so I've moved around the other side of the cliffs now. So we were looking at it from this angle. Now we're looking at the other perspective. And I've put in this base plate and it is now firmly supported underneath where Robin's standing. And I've put in quite a few rocks here to pin it from the top as well as from the bottom. And you can see some nice pleasing caves. 1, 2 there, and this lovely dark green as well. Now, the next step is to put the rail tracks on here, which will give it further strength, and I can then fill in all the ballast as long as I've got enough pieces. As you know, I'm running very low on the ballast pieces. I'll have to order some more. And then I've got to incorporate this. Now, this is the battery box for my Vestas wind turbine, which is right over there against the wall. Now, it's got about 3 power functions extension cables, which means it can reach here. And that's so I didn't have to really stretch across my base plates to actually turn it on and off. So that's turned on and off here. You can probably hear that going. So I wanted to incorporate this into the cliffs. So the button could just be sort of pressed or pulled or something like that very easily and very discreetly. So I want to, and I think I'm going to have to probably put it on its side because this battery box is too tall. So I think I'm going to basically have the battery box like that with the Technic piece being longer and sticking out from these cliffs. And then I can continue building the cliffs on round this corner. So the first thing I need to do is to stop this switch, as in the original set, from going both in the forward and the back directions, and that's easily done just by using one of these double slope pieces and a 1x2 plate with the rail on. You need the rail just so the spacing is sufficient to stop. See, now if I push switch, it's stopped from going any further, so it can only ever be pulled in the correct direction and turned off. So that's fixed that. The next thing I need to do is add a longer Technic piece. So this is the longest one I've got. It's in black, but I haven't got it in dark grey. So it'll have to do for now. I can always swap it later. And then I thought if this just laid on its side, and I use some other pieces that are going to be supporting the base plate above, I can sort of pin it in place. But essentially, it'll work like this with a very subtle pull of this sort of girder looking piece sticking out. And it's kind of a play feature, really. I mean, I've got visible play features on a lot of other things like the cranes and the monorail tram system. So I don't think that really detracts from it. So I'm going to basically add a few of these more supports to pin this motor in position and provide continued support by the way of using some of these pieces that I bought on brick hauls to support the next bit, which is a 16 by 32 dark grey base plate, and then I can continue the cliff face around these two edges. And I wonder if I can fit in some sort of Easter egg as well. Wish me luck. Now I've added the bits that are securing the battery box in place and securing the base plate that will go on here from beneath. And then we've got the lever here, which just protrudes slightly from the rock face, enough to grab quite easily, but not too much so it looks stupid. And then on this side, I've got another old grey burp piece, big ugly rock piece, and that's just turning the corner. And then the other corner here is just the continuation of the marina side wall, which can go all the way along this base plate until it meets the actual corner of the marina near the floating Chinese restaurant. So this is a nice sort of seamless corner already, going from the sort of rock to the man-made wall. And that just leaves me a little space left to do. And I thought I'd add a little Easter egg. So what I'm going to do is have another big ugly rock piece in dark bluish grey, but this one I'll have the sort of wrong way around, if you see what I mean. And that will therefore create a large cave. And then just to make the cave almost sealed up, put a small burp there and another small burp, but a green and grey one here, which gives us a little sort of gap that we can peek into. And I thought I'd put the swamp creature in there. Now the swamp creature is another Monster Fighters minifigure, one of the monsters obviously. That's from set 9461. And the set's called the Swamp Creature, so you can probably work out why. And I thought he could be sat on a rock with his spear and a fish that he's caught. And then when we put this piece back, there we go. And the roof will be sort of like that. So he'll be sort of peeking out with his bright yellow eyes. And if you look slightly more to the left from where I've got the camera position at the moment, then you can see him even more clearly with his spear and his fish. Fantastic. I think that's really good fun. So I'll probably have another goody monster hunter, or baddie if you're a monster, depending on your point of view, searching around for him perhaps on the surface when I've finished it, because it's always sensible to have a monster fighter when you've got a monster. Good, right, so there's a few gaps I need to fill in here, and then I'll add a bit more sort of greebling little rocks around here and some splashes, maybe some more seaweed, and then I think we can put the base plate on and seal it all up and put the track on. Now I've filled in all the gaps, got some good seaweed and rocky pieces, and even some splashes down the bottom, little cheese wedge pieces, which means I can slide this final base plate into position. And I can secure it using a few pieces like 1x2 slope, 2x2 curved slope, and so on. So then that is really nice and firm. And I can actually, for the first time now, attach the end of the monorail line firmly to a base plate, because that was always hanging in midair before. Good. I think that looks pretty amazing, actually. Really happy with that. We've got a crab. We've got a swamp creature. Lots of seaweed. What more could we want? And I nearly forgot the most important point. I don't think it's too conspicuous, but it's also not too inconspicuous that you couldn't direct somebody to it quite easily. I like it. Wouldn't you just know it? In linking our new cliffs to the marina, I'm 3 1x2x5 bricks short, a few inverted slopes short as well. But hey ho, we'll just have to deal with a hole for now. But otherwise, it's looking pretty seamless. I like it. And this gives us a really nice big area here to do something fun. I'm thinking a nice seafront restaurant with a fence around the outside and maybe a sort of viewing platform or something like that. Now, one thing you may have noticed is there are sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of squared off bits that look a bit unnatural. And that's because they are deliberately built out to take what will be the beginning of the bridge's supportive structure. And I built it right up to this level because then the railway tracks can continue from the ballast height seamlessly onto the supportive structures. So the track will have no hill whatsoever, no bump, no anything like that. And between these Technic bricks and the actual track pieces themselves, it will be bound together very strongly. So hopefully whatever bridge I build and whatever the span is, the length of the span, it should be strong enough to take a heavy train charging across it at high speed. Because it's got to be at high speed. So there's Swampy the swamp creature. And I've now finished the ballast, taking it all the way up to where the bridges will be. It's looking pretty good. And as I said before, there's the actual termination of the monorail tram line. So now you can see that the edge of that warehouse isn't hanging off into space anymore. And the sea level continues seamlessly from the harbour to the opening of Brick Bay. And I think that view looks rather good. Down the tracks are interesting cliffs. The play feature, it's not too obvious, is it? And then what I'm most excited about now is this big area. Because it's quite a big area to play with. Right next to the floating Chinese restaurant. And I do think it should be another restaurant, so we've got a sort of restaurant district. I'm very happy with how that join has turned out as well. So good. Very happy with it. Just to prove this is actually doing it. Haha! And there we have it, a complete set of cliffs. I think this looks really good, but it's also filled in a gap that was looking incredibly ugly. So now we've got an absolutely perfect seam all the way from over here in the warehouse, all the way almost to the marina, apart from a few bricks we were short of. We've also got a lot of interest, all different shapes, colours, textures, lots of seaweed, some crabs, and a swamp creature. And we've also finished off the ballast on the railway line all the way up to the edge of the bridge, so we can start building those. I'm really happy with it. I hope you'll agree it's much better than just a very standard uniform cliff. A lot of people decide just to put the same big ugly rock piece next to itself again and again and again, and it just looks so artificial. So what I've really tried to do here is mix it up as much as possible to make it look as natural as possible, even though it still is a very straight edge. And let's not forget the hidden play feature for the Vestas wind turbine. Great. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, I think I'd like to get on with one of these bridges. See you next time!